And here we are, everybody. Hello, and welcome to Extra Connections with James Lott Jr. here on JLJ Media. I am the JLJ and JLJ Media. I'm James Lott Jr. And welcome to the show. I have a fun show today. I love music. I love doing music. I love all kinds of music. We're going to talk about a special brand of music, a special category in music that these two know very well because this is what they do. They have a podcast called New Pod on the Block. I love puns. I will take them anytime I can because I do a lot here on JLJ Media. Thank you very much. Be here all week. So you see I'm wearing a Spice Girl shirt. We're going to talk boy bands, girl bands, and some kind of things that are in between there. I have some surprises for them. So we're going to talk to them. Two good friends of mine. I'm just so happy to have them both together. They've been on my show separately. Now we're together. Mike Zacchio and Josh Rodriguez.
What's going on, James?
Thank you for having us on. It is an honor to be
such
back.
a warm introduction, like a giant bear hug. I love it.
Yes, I love it. Back on
Extra Connections. Extra Connections. White voice.
Love it. I love it.
That's Josh's impression of Michael McCary and Barry White combined.
I had this voice when I was born. I can't help it.
It's a beautiful voice. You should not apologize for it. You do not have to justify
it.
This is who you are.
Well, thank you. Tony Moore calls me the Quiet Storm. I'll take the Quiet Storm. Like, well, you know. So, folks, you're watching JLJ Media. Go ahead and like, subscribe. While you're here, there's a button down here somewhere that's red. Make sure you hit that. I have lots of content, and lots of these shows. And so your favorite folks might be on here. So go ahead and take a look and see what's going on here on my emerging online network that I'm doing. And also the audio version. We'll listen to this later. Hello, podcast listener. Make sure you hit that follow button wherever you find this. So if you're on Spotify or iHeartRadio or Apple or Google, wherever the F you are, hit that follow button. Please make me happy. Please make me happy. Okay, that's all done. The housekeeping announcements are done. So first of all, I want to start this section of a subsection of a subsection. I written down. Okay. Best solo projects and side projects of boy bands.
Oh my God!
I'm gonna name a
swinging.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
I got two bros. I got to show up.
Wow. Okay. All right.
I can't just be like phoning it in.
Wow.
I can't phone this in.
Let's do this.
So I'll bring up some of these and see what you guys think.
Okay.
If you guys have any thoughts, or you heard them or anything. So I'm gonna start with. Not the obvious, like One Direction, they all went solo and that kind of stuff. But I want to go a little deeper. Have you guys heard the Jordan Knight and Joey McIntyre releases when they came out? They were hits. They had some hits off of them. Yes. Jordan Knight did an album with Jimmy Jam Terry Lewis, actually, where had some good songs on there. Then Joey McIntyre had some huge hits off of his too. So thoughts about the solo projects of those two guys from that famous group they were in?
I guess I'll go first. Give It To You is one of my favorite songs ever. So yes. I'm well aware of the Jordan Knight solo release. I don't remember the album too well, to be honest with you. Like, I remember Joey McIntyre had a song called I Love You Came Too Late. That song I liked a lot. And there was another one. Oh, man, how'd it go? And I hope you never say, because there's nothing about you I would change. I forgot the name of the song, but he had like two songs I remember, but I don't remember the album specifically. But I did like what I heard from both of them from what they put on the radio. So that's my take on those type of things. I don't remember the albums too specifically though. Mike, I don't know if you do.
So
you like the song.
I'm so, or at least I was so unfamiliar with New Kids on the Block that I didn't know that Donnie Wahlberg, Jordan Knight, or Joey McIntyre were in New Kids on the Block. I'm saying New Pod on the Block. I didn't know they were in New Kids on the Block until like after their solo, because I heard Give It To You, and then I learned Jordan Knight. And I knew who Joey McIntyre was from his solo career, and I knew who Donnie Wahlberg was from his acting career. And then later on, I found out like, oh my God, all three of these guys were in New Kids on the Block. So I'm with Josh in that Give It To You is an all-time pop. It's 2021. If that song comes on, I'm still gonna bop around to it. I think Joey McIntyre's got a lot of singing talent that kind of goes unnoticed. We probably should have put him on our solo episode. Yeah, we could do a part 2 in season 3.
It was very short though with Joey. I feel like there wasn't much to talk about because he had the I Love You Came Too Late and that other song I just sang horribly.
He had a song called, he had a big hit called Stay the Same.
Stay the Same. That's what I was singing. And I hope you always stay the same because there's nothing about you I would change. Those are the lyrics. And I'm not going to try to sing it again because that was pathetic. But
great song.
Yeah, it's a good song. They were both great songs. I don't remember the albums though. Yeah, we did a episode like this, James, where we went down solo careers of those who were in boy bands, and we, determined whether or not they were successful.
Yes,
Joey McIntyre was not on the list.
No.
See, I got something new for you guys. See, I know my stuff.
You do know your stuff.
But he did have some success. I mean, we had some solo success, but I agree with you, Josh. Underrated. Nice voice. Very nice voice. Yeah. Underrated. I know he's the youngest of New Kids on the Block. So I don't know if that has anything to do with anything, but he just, he was fine. He was good. Now I want to go to an album that I actually really liked. These two came together, Nick and Knight. When Jordan Knight and Nick Carter did an album together, and I really, really liked it. Okay, I can see his face. I see. I did it again.
News to me. What?
I did it again.
They did an album together. Did you know this, Mike?
Yes, they did.
I didn't know it, but I only knew it very briefly. Like very recently, I found out because I went on like a Wikipedia rabbit hole. Yeah, and then I found out. I'm like, oh my, like what? Nick Carter and Jordan Knight did an album together.
2014 it came out. 2014 they did an album together of duets and stuff, and I actually really liked it.
We have to check this out. We need to do a review of this.
Is it all original tracks, James? Is it or is it covers?
No, original tracks.
Really?
The first song that came out was Just the Two of Us. Or the song they put out. One More Time, another song. It was a collaborative album they did. They said,
James is just giving us content right here.
I'm literally taking out the pad and paper right now. Like Josh knows how my mind works. Like it's
just ripping off extra connections for content material.
I love it.
We're doing.
There are, it's a song called Deja Vu, but not the Deja Vu you would know. It's right. People, If You Want It, they co-wrote a couple of songs. Halfway There's a song. So and it went to number 24 on the Billboard charts.
Wow. What?
I couldn't tell you a single song that came off of it.
Yeah. I remember as a whole, I remember playing it. And I actually thought, this is actually kind of cool. I was trying to see what the boy bands were doing today. I remember back then, and I liked it.
How did that even happen? Like, how did Jordan Knight and Nick Carter get the same?
Because didn't they do that NKOT BSB thing?
That's what it was.
Okay. So I'm trying to think if that was before or after Nick and Knight, or maybe that. I'm sure one of them after. So then they probably got close during the tour, and then.
Okay, that makes sense to me because I'm like, that's really random to just be like, hey,
I know, right?
Like, nothing against Nick Carter, but Jordan Knight, come on, you can find another Backstreet Boy to do a collaboration with. That's shady. That's shade. I just do some shade.
I love shade.
Come on, let's
3 o'clock in the afternoon. He is throwing shade.
Let's be honest, though.
No,
Jordan Knight's like one of the greatest boy band members of all time, and you want to collaborate with the guy who goes, like, I like the Backstreet Boys, and Nick is okay, but like, if I'm gonna collab with somebody, it's not gonna be the guy who sounds like you.
Like, not for having to go with like,
especially like if it's ballads, you know what I mean? Like, because I want someone who can sing, and like, I would ask AJ, like, yo, AJ.
Well, yeah, if you're gonna do ballads, you can go with Brian, or if you want to like kind of have that contrast of like, I feel like Jordan was kind of like the nice boy, very wholesome looking, somewhat. Then you go with AJ, and you have that contrast, and then,
yeah. But Jordan could do anything, so Jordan could like just adapt to who he's with.
And so maybe you could have like AJ and Knight, like Day and like AJ and Knight. Something. I don't know. I'm reaching here, but
it's okay. Yeah, maybe he just did it for the album name purposes. Like, it would just be cool to be Nick and Knight, and that's the only reason why I'm doing it.
Nick and Night, right? Nick and Night.
Yeah. Oh my goodness!
Well, I love this. It's always cooler in the shade. Thank you. I love it.
I mean, there's a lot of Nick Carter shade on our podcast. I don't mean to do it. I do mean to do it. Actually, I'm lying, but really? I don't know why. His name comes up, and I hear it. Yeah. Sorry, Nick. I actually do like the Backstreet Boys, and his parts are pretty cool sometimes. So.
It's like that TikTok audio. Like, I'm not obsessed with this. I am obsessed with this, and I'm okay with it. Like, I don't mean to throw shit. I do mean to throw shit. I do mean it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll always stand by your shade. I mean, I do all the time. I stand by my shade all the time. Just stand by it.
Got it.
Okay. Now, these two brothers each went out solo and had success solo, but they also had projects. So the first one was Nick Jonas. Before he went and had the huge thing, he had the administration. It was Nick Jonas Administration, which was a very different kind of music than what he did later. Which is more R&B, poppy stuff he did. You guys remember any of that album or any of that? It went number 3 in the charts. It was a huge, just because it was him.
I do not. Mike, do you?
Administration? No, I remember he had solo hits, but like I don't remember hearing anything about the Administration.
If you want to be honest with you, like I wasn't a big Jonas Brothers fan. It wasn't until Nick went solo and released "Jealous" that I was like,
that song was so good.
Yeah, that I was just kind of like, all right, I'm gonna start paying attention to you guys now. And then Nick, and then through Nick's solo career, you kind of retroactively go back and listen to songs, and then they got back together, released "Sucker." So yeah, I mean, it wasn't until that point. I mean, it's interesting because our podcast is about like more of the 90s boy bands, and like the Jonas Brothers kind of get left out, which in my case, and I don't know how, Mike, maybe you can speak for yourself, like, once NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys were past their heyday, I went in another direction. Like I've always liked R&B and hip hop, and then so like later in high school I was listening more towards that and different pop, not necessarily boy bands. So like the Jonas Brothers, they didn't really do it for me. So I'm kind of like ignorant to like their time period. Yeah, no, I went down like a rap hip hop hole after boy bands. I made it just a complete 180. I went to like listen. I went from listening to like and singing Backstreet Boys to Nelly and Eminem and Jagged Edge and all all that.
I love that. Then Joe Jonas got with DNCE, had that huge hit "Cake on the Ocean."
Cake by the Ocean, yeah.
And so which was such a great. I love and the Toothbrush song. Yeah, it's sung by some of my Toothbrush. I love those two songs. It was very different music. Josh is like, what the F? He had a 4-person band. They were all kind of quirky. And these songs were huge hits. And it was him. I remember when I first heard it was him, and I'm like, it's him in the band? Like, it's him? I was very proud of the direction he went with that. It was a very fun, quirky pop song. That's what got me into the Jonas Brothers, was hearing DNCE and finding out Joe Jonas was a part of that, because I loved Cake by the Ocean. And then I started hearing Nick's solo career, because I wasn't really a fan of Nick Jonas, and I started listening to him. I'm like, wow, okay, he could sing. And then when there were rumors of them reuniting, I'm like, I'd be open to this, like a Jonas Brothers reunion. And Shani Hugh is a huge Jonas Brothers fan. So when Sucker came out, she's like, you have to listen to this. And I listened to it. They came back hard. I mean, like, wow, all these songs are good. I mean, I'm like, because they were gone for a while together. They were together for a while. And they came back. I was like, this album is the bomb. Every song was really good. And Sucker just punched everyone in the mouth. Like, hard right hook knockout, like #1 everywhere on the radio all the time. I was here for it. And I told her, I'm like, I would go to a Jonas Brothers concert now. Happily. And then they came up with Cool, Only Human, and everything. And then we listened to the album. Okay. Is it? So I know you guys are more 90s, but I'm going to mention this legendary group, super group of, they are a boy band. What? Which one? Menudo? No. That's what I thought he was going to. Oh, Menudo. Martin. No. They're same time period. But they all had solo and or side group projects. So I'm going to name them all. Belle Biv DeVoe, Johnny Gill, Bobby Brown, Ralph Tresvant. They all had New Edition. New Edition. As soon as you said Belle Biv DeVoe, I was like, oh, it's New Edition. Right. So they all were successful. They literally were all successful projects. Yeah. I look at it in terms of the charts and cultural significance. Bobby Brown was the most prominent and successful. I looked at the charts. Johnny Gill actually had more hits. It was around a lot longer, because I remember as a kid. Him and Stacey Lattisaw had some songs, and he was. And Johnny Gill is the only person. Some trivia for you when you're on Jeopardy or whatever. Johnny Gill is the only artist to have #1 hits as a solo artist, as a duo, as a trio, and in a group. He was in the first Sweat Gill. That's a trio. He had hits in each one. James, there's a few artists that actually have that. So let's go. I try. James, I want to get your opinion on this, because we have bands like New Edition and Boyz II Men and things like that, and Mike and I were drafting a constitution to say. You guys talked about it on your episode. This, yes. Yeah, I listened to the episode. You guys had this conversation. I want to get your opinion on it, because I want to talk to you directly about it. So the New Editions, the Boyz II Men, what do you think of them? Where should they be? New Edition, yes. They are a boy thing, because they were brought together by Maurice Starr, who of course later started New Kids on the Block, the whole boy band thing. Okay. It's, I think, #1, and they were designed to be like the original boy band, Jackson 5, except they weren't related. They just weren't related. That's the only difference. Because obviously, so after I had Mike on the show, my brother and I were listening to some of the early Jackson 5 hits and just seeing how they're so super catchy. They're so everything. It's literally, I mean, him and Jermaine doing lead vocals together, Michael and Jermaine. It was cool. So New Edition was the exact blueprint. The early songs were Bobby and Ralph. They were both trading vocals. It was like this whole kind of boy band thing. They were designed for the girls. I'm from that, they're my age. I remember my girlfriends in junior high school were like, going crazy about them. Yeah. We all had the album, Candy Girl. We all, it was completely a boy band. It was different than an R&B group.
Okay. Boy band.
Fandom. It makes sense.
The whole the whole aura of it was boy band culture.
Yes. So now with Boys to Men, and I think I said this on the show, and it's how I agree, they're not a boy band.
Oh man.
I know it's weird, but I feel like they were designed for everyone. They were designed for it because like grandmas loved them and parents loved them. And it happened that I don't know if the young girls loved it, but I know the girls my age loved it. I was in my 20s at the time. We loved them. But I don't think they were designed for kids. Another Bad Creation was another group from that time period. They were a boy band. They were designed
ABC, BBD.
Exactly. They were made for that. Their song Aisha and all that was a boy band groove. That's what that was here. Hello, Adrienne in the chat room. That's what they were. Boys were designed to be an R&B group.
Yeah, I personally always had a hard time looking at Boys to Men as like a boy, because I always just looked at like the New Editions, New Kids on them. I'm like, I don't know, like yes, they're the same age-ish kind of thing, and they're great, like they're phenomenal. But I'm like, I don't know. I always had a hard time viewing them as a boy band. But then like again, you see like Rolling Stone ranking them in boy band songs, and it's like I look at like Motown Philly, and I'm like, that sounds like a boy band song. And then like after that, everything goes to a lot of vocals, exactly. And I'm like, that's because when Josh and I were putting the bracket together, I'm like, a lot of these songs, like, I'll Make Love to You and, End of the Road, like they just don't sound like boy band songs. They're just, but they're adults. They're adult contemporary songs when you really think about them. This happens.
Yeah, they are.
It's like saying Anita Baker is a young artist. No, she was for adult contemporary. We all liked Anita Baker, everything, but Houston was the youthful one at that time period. She was designed for the young people. She was a young talent. She happened to cross over into adults, same Mariah Carey. They were designed for the young folks, but they were crossed over. I just feel like Boys to Men, they're more. I mean, and New Edition's an R&B group. They're an R&B group also. I mean, they are, but their
demographic was like teenage girls and the whole like hysteria of being a teenage girl.
I remember I was there.
It was basically like. Yeah, like I'm a 35-year-old man, and we just had a Valentine's Day dinner, and I'm gonna go home, and you're gonna put on some lingerie, and we're gonna get busy. Like that was Boys to Men. It is.
I love how we're having this conversation the day after Valentine's Day.
Right, exactly. they were like 4 Luther Vandrosses. That's what they were. I mean, that's how you think about that. That's how you think about it. I mean, Homeboy shined that deep bass voice you come into those parts. I mean, it's hard to say died yesterday. I mean, those songs are not for kids. They're for everybody. They're for everyone.
But adults, they're for adults. Like you have to be grown to understand I'll Make Love to You. You really do.
Yeah.
I mean, we can pretend like we understand it as like a 15, 16 but no, like End of the Road, even that's like even the way they sung about heartbreak was different than the way, the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, they sung about heartbreak. Yeah. It was more mature. It was more
Boys to Men, like quit playing games with my heart. Sorry, I haven't been to karaoke in a year. My vocals are all scratchy. Yeah, but it's a different sound.
It was more true.
But I know what you mean. It's tough because it's like, are they? I think they're not. In my opinion, they're not. I would never think of them as a boy band.
If we were to personify the sound, if we were to personify the sound of like the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, it'd be like a teenage guy in high school. But if you're personifying the sound of Boys to Men, it's like a grown man in a suit.
Yeah.
Well, yes.
I love that visual.
That's and I guess doing your own constitution, but my constitution is all, if it's made for the children, that's what constitutes a boy band or a girl band. If it's made for that 9 to 15 or 9 to 17, to me, that's what it's for. And I was there. They're my age. I mean, it was made for me.
James, you're going to be a co-signer on the Constitution, just so you know. Like, this is not just a Mike Zacchio, Josh Rodriguez production. Like, we might finalize the details and cross the T's, dot the I's, but
no, like you're laughing, but we're sending you a PDF that you have to sign. Like we're not.
Yeah, we're gonna get you. We're gonna get the girls from My So-Called Whatever. We're like the people who really brought this idea together. And if we're really lucky, we'll get Donnie Wahlberg and and AJ McLean, Lance Bass will comment on it from TikTok and be like, I co-sign this, and we'll be good to go.
But you have to wear a wig, a George Washington wig, while you sign it. That's the rule.
Now, Josh, you know me. I'll do that. I'll pull out
you have to look like a founding father. You have.
I'll pull out a prop in a second.
Actually, it's not going to be a wig. It's going to be a beanie. That's going to be our wigs. It's a beanie.
We'll read it in an English accent.
Yeah.
I have beanies. I have a Brooklyn beanie I can put on from Brooklyn.
That's our wigs. Those are old school wigs. Are the beanies.
Yeah.
I'm going to dress up like King George from Hamilton and then read it out.
Hamilton.
There we go.
Yeah. So. Anyway, so that's kind of funny. So, but anyway, and all those, I mean, there's memorable songs from each of them, from Poison to, Bobby Brown's My Prerogative. So I think we could say they all did really well. Boy band history, they're in there.
And I need to throw an ounce of shade really quickly.
Shade.
Bobby Brown only stayed relevant because he was with Whitney Houston. So. Thanks. Like My Prerogative slapped, we'll give that. But like people only knew who Bobby Brown was later on. It was because of Whitney, I think.
Okay, kids. Let me jump in for a second.
Okay.
Let me learn. Poke the bear.
Now you got me awake. Well, you waking the bear exactly. Okay. First of all, Bobby Brown was super talented and was a big star before Whitney Houston. So take that, bitches out there. He was first. She was kind of the up and coming girl when he was already a star. Number two, he had an album that came out after that, My Prerogative, huge Don't Be Cool album. That was really good and got lost in the shuffle because folks were getting mad at him. Even when we find out years later, it was Whitney Houston who brought the drugs into the relationship. But his album with Humping Around and Two Can Play That Game, great stuff. There's some great stuff on that album.
Humping Around's cool.
That got lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
Exactly. I just want to make sure I say that.
All right.
And he was still known. He's still...
No. James Lott Jr. coming to Bobby Brown's defense. I love it, baby. I love it.
Okay, let's see. We don't care about One Direction. Okay, so now we're done with that. So that's the best solo projects and mix-ups. I want to mention those. So I gave you some stuff for your show, so I'm very happy.
Nick and Knight.
I want to mention, because I don't know what your knowledge really is on British boy bands and how important that is to your show. Do you bring in? I'm gonna name some names and stuff that I like.
Okay.
I'm just wondering if do so like for me, I loved The Wanted. Glad You Came, love that song. I love that song. Love that song. There was Westlife, Ross, E17, and one of my favorites, Take That.
Take That.
I'm a huge Take That fan. I still am. I actually have some great music still coming out, even though they're down to a threesome now. I like them. So I wonder, do British bands even get it? I'm gonna mention some girl ones a little later, but for the boys, do they even matter to you guys from the girl boy band?
I mean, they matter. I mean, if they're boy bands, like they're boy bands, admittedly we're not as familiar. Like when we started the show, like I did not know what Westlife was. I think I had heard Say It Again. I knew I had heard the song Back for Good, but I did not know it was Take That. I didn't know it was Gary Barlow. I definitely didn't know it was Robbie Williams in that group.
Love Robbie Williams solo.
So now that, season 1 was just kind of like, let's get the show going. Season 2, we introduced more, British boy bands. And I think season 3, you'll start to see more. I think we could do a whole episode just on, overseas boy bands. Honestly,
many of them were the 90s. I'm saying that's why I mentioned something. They were the 90s.
Yeah, we had a lot of people in our DMs, especially during the times you're doing like the countdowns of like greatest ballads or whatever. They're like, well, what about Westlife? What about Take That? And we're like,
because the show goes out international, so I always wonder about that because we're very America centric. Obviously, it's where you're from.
Yes,
but it is international. And these are international bands. These bands are huge.
When we initially were drafting the 64 songs to make the bracket, Take That, Back for Good was not in there. It wasn't until someone DM'd me. They were like, oh, check this song out. And I looked it up and I'm like, this song peaked at like number 2. It went, it was, all over the place. All these, Rolling Stone, Billboard had it ranked. I'm like, what the hell is this song? And I played it and I'm like, yeah, it starts off really slow, the little guitar riff. And I'm like, I don't know what this song. And then as soon as they started getting to the chorus, I'm like, Oh, okay. I know this song. I'm like, yeah, this song slapped. Okay. And then it went from not being ranked at all to like a 2 seed or something like that. And then it got knocked out in the second round. Or maybe in the first. Did it make the first round or no?
Second round. I think it made the second round. Yeah.
Oh, because it beat Westlife in the first round, and then
we put them against each other, which was kind of messed up.
How life works sometimes. Yeah, that's life.
Yeah.
A doggy dog. Rachel Ehrlich says, I can't wait to see this boy band Constitution.
Rachel.
Hey, Rachel.
New Put on the Block fan.
Yes.
Love you, Rachel.
Yeah, some people are in here. They said hi. Actually, it's all women in here so far. So, hi, chicks.
Hi.
Hey, chicks. Hey, chicks. We love it. All in here. Adrian and Kirsten. All you guys.
It's fun. It's fun.
But no, yeah, because Take That was a big band, and I was a huge fan of theirs. And I know Gary Barlow went solo. He had a few songs I liked. Yeah, one song written by Madonna, actually. But I'm a huge fan of Robbie Williams, and I'm sad that he didn't make it in America. They tried at one point.
He was okay. He was like, I remember when he first came on the scene, they pushed him for sure. They definitely pushed him.
Yeah, because I remember hearing his name. I didn't know he was a part of a boy band, though.
Yeah.
And Candy is a bop.
Yeah, well, they did. Yes. No, I mean, I'm a huge. I love all. I mean, overseas, of course, he's one of the biggest solo artists in the world. It was like him and Kylie Minogue. They were trying to push him at the same time. She made it here, but he didn't.
Right. Well, Kylie,
that's out of my head and all that was huge.
That song was a smash. What?
That song's an earworm.
That song is a smash. I actually had a dream about that song last year. I swear to God, like I'm not even kidding. Like I'll show you my notepad where like I heard the song and I heard a remix version of the song and I woke up. I do music, so I try to recreate it in my head. That song was a smash.
That song's a bomb. I'm a big Kylie fan. But I'm saying at the same time they had brought them over here, tried to do like a British invasion again, but he didn't stick. Yeah, I don't know why he didn't stick. He's a great charismatic person, great voice. I don't know why he didn't stick.
I think sometimes like you just have too many guys. Like it sounds kind of weird, but you have all these boy band members and they're going solo. It's just just overcrowded at some point. Like how many guys can teenage girls be obsessed with at once? I say that in jest, but at the same time, it's true. Like you didn't have people who had NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys and 98 Degrees. It was one or the other, and after a while, you're kind of just running out of options. So.
And like One Direction, I could sit there and say like, yeah, like I feel like all 5 have their own individual fan bases, but like who else were they gonna be like The Wanted? Like who else was on the scene like in terms of like boy band culture? Like when One Direction was big, like you said, like NSYNC was also Backstreet Boys, LFO, 98 Degree, like just so many people. And like even New Kids on the Block was like they were fading out, or if not like, but the
90s was great. Together.
Oh God! Don't don't get him started. Don't like
from MTV.
Like putting a quarter in a merry-go-round.
I have Josh. This is why we're related. I have that CD.
Thank you.
I was obsessed. I was obsessed.
James. I have the cassette. I have the cassette of Together.
It's hard to find now. It's hard to find.
Well, that's probably a relic. Yeah, I gotta find. I think it's in storage somewhere. But yeah, that might be worth a few bucks now.
It might be. But the one guy died.
I know the young one, Michael like Chacon or something like that.
Yeah.
So I know Together. And let's not bring up O-Town. I mean, we should bring up O-Town.
We can bring up O-Town.
Don't bring up All or Nothing.
Series.
You want to see Josh get cranked up? Ask him what happened with All or Nothing. But
well, Josh, my buddy Tony Moore from AfterBuzz TV, also he loves O-Town. He auditioned for this but he has a whole video back in the day about it. It's hilarious.
He hit me up. He told me that he did. He wanted me to get. I'll hit him up. Yeah, he told me he auditioned for them. I was like, really? I didn't know that. Yeah, I'll hit him up.
Yeah, he's an O-Town fan. Big fan.
I think All or Nothing.
So I did watch that show, and it was Eden's Crush, which was the Cult Share Singers. It was their first group. I like them. They're good, as she said.
Eden's Crush reminds me of my brother because they had this song like "What's good for the goose is good for the gander."
Yes.
And me and my brother, we were watching their performance, and we looked at each other and just started, for whatever reason, laughing. So we just used to quote that with everything. So they remind me of my brother. We just used to quote that for just nonsensical situations. But I don't know too much of their music. Were they good? Eden's Crush? I don't even know if they were good. I just know that.
Songs, but then they broke up. They had a couple of cute songs, and they left because she went up being a Pussycat Dolls, and that was, So it says no, Josh. Okay, then Demo. Hi, Demo, who's in here.
Demo!
Why do groups like One Direction and Fifth? You know Demo.
I do know Demo.
Why do groups like One Direction and Fifth Harmony? They would ask you guys a question. They want to go, why do groups like One Direction and Fifth Harmony fail to have huge success like groups in the 90s?
I mean, One Direction was huge. Right. Like look at the tour earnings. Like they were. Like, I can see Fifth Harmony getting, like how come they weren't as big as the Spice Girls? Like I guess that's a fair question.
Huge, though. They're big.
Oh, they're big too, right?
Fifth Harmony's big.
Yeah.
But they weren't like on the level of Destiny's Child, TLC, and Spice Girls. Right. But like One Direction was enormous. Honestly, I think the big reason they didn't probably take off as much as like NSYNC or Backstreet Boys because they didn't have that other group. I think that NSYNC and Backstreet Boys benefited from the competition of each other. Because One Direction did have social media, which helped them grow their international presence and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, because they were around the same amount of years as NSYNC, so you can't even say like, oh, they weren't together very long. But I think if they would have had another huge group to kind of play off of, I think that they could have really done something big.
Also, I'd like to add that like we just live in a different time now. Like you can go on Spotify and find 100 new artists that you want to listen to. Sure. Now more than ever, people are listening to artists that you may never heard of or just aren't on the radio. Where back in our day, it was on the radio and that was it. That was what we were fed. So, Fifth Harmony, they're going up against, other girl groups and other female leads and other groups that you just don't know exist. I mean, I know for me personally, my friends, they don't listen to what's on the radio anymore. That's not what it is. So there's more competition, there's more options, especially at your fingertips now with your phone and apps and everything like that. So it's just more difficult to strike it as big as those boy bands were.
Yes, in 1998, like you had to go to Tower Records and sift through like the different CDs and be like, oh, what's this? They look cool. I'll listen to them. Whereas, like Josh said, like it was a captive audience. It's whatever's on the radio. This is what you're going to listen to. We're going to pump, Boys to Men, Backstreet Boys, whatever. Like that's what you're going to listen to. And that's what's going to rise on the charts. Yeah. Whereas now, like, a song from TikTok can explode on the Billboard charts, which would have never been possible in 1998.
It's a wild thought.
Back then, I go to New York to visit my family. I go to the East Village, and I'd walk towards the Tower Records, and I would see all the yellow and red bags coming my direction. And it would get more and more as I got closer and closer to Tower Records. And I was in a sea of yellow and red bags that said Tower Records. And then I'd look up, and there was that 2-story Tower Records. It was like 14th or whatever. And I was like, I'm here. I'm home, bitches. I'm so happy.
Remember when they used to do like record signings like at the Tower Records, like, oh, like NSYNC's gonna be signing, no strings attached at Tower. Like, now it's okay, the album's out, download it.
That's a big deal.
It was a different time.
Yeah,
it was a different time, and I think also, Demo also I will add this. The perception of the artist was different back then because there was no social media. MySpace was kind of just starting out, but it wasn't huge yet. So everything was kind of mysterious. So I know. So in my day, back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, it was completely, you didn't know about the artist. It was all like Prince didn't do interviews. You know nothing about him. So that's mystique. Right. When it came together, I remember when We Are the World came together. That was a huge deal. All these people, it was like, everybody coming together to do a song. Like it was the most oddest thing for us to wrap our brains on. When anybody did a duet together, it was a big deal because like these are two separate artists doing a duet together. Like it was such I think the perception is that these boy bands, they were selling actual records. They were selling 1 million records in a week, and that was like actual physical albums they were selling, physical CDs, physical sets. Physical whatever, where now it's much different. So I think the perception also too is that they were huge because it was a smaller pond and there's a different.
Yeah, and that's how you had to listen to the music. Like if I want to listen to any group right now, I can just go on YouTube, listen to a song. I don't have to purchase anything. So you're not going to set any album sales records. It's different. It's just completely different.
You're not going to find It Makes Me Ill on the radio. You're going to have to buy the album and then listen to it.
Right, exactly.
And I would have mentioned because back when One Direction and the One they tried to promote them here also, and One Direction, of course, took off. The Wanted didn't. But also on the girl group side, they had the Saturdays. And I remember they had a series on E. And so did the Wanted. They both had series on E. They tried for one season. I'm in one of the episodes because I went to the concert. God, no, it's really weird.
Burying the lead
sure
there.
On YouTube somewhere. I do all kinds of stuff. I mean, I got stuff in my past. But I remember I met the Saturdays. I actually met them. And so they're very nice. And they didn't take off in America either. And I remember talking to some of the girls. They're like, because in Britain, it was Girls Aloud, Sugar Babes, the Saturdays, All Saints. They're all huge over there.
Yeah.
And they were saying that America, even though, because England is so small, that it's almost easy to get big over there, that this America was the place they wanted to conquer. It seemed so big to them, it was so vast to them. They said it was really hard. They were trying to tour and trying to do these get dates. And they're like, it's hard, James. And I was like, I know. I know it's tough, but I get to meet the Saturdays. They didn't make it here either. They didn't make it. They had a few songs that just
I've never heard of them.
Didn't make it.
No,
So,
neither
I don't
have
know.
I.
Do you know any? Have you heard of any of those groups I just mentioned, or they just know? You heard? Yeah.
Yeah.
I've very briefly
But
heard
I woke
of All Saints.
All Saints I heard of, yeah. Never ever, never, never, never. That's all I remember.
Yeah, there's a song. Well, no, there's a song that I love of theirs. I still play today. It's called "Chick Fit." Listen to that song.
Chick Fit.
It's called "Chick Fit." The song is my favorite of theirs. It's called "Chick Fit."
Write it down,
And
Mike.
my
Write it
favorite-
down.
the
I got
lyrics
it.
are
I got it.
good.
I got it.
Right now, Mike Zacchio. Chick
Done.
Fit. That's my
Done.
favorite.
I
My
got
favorite
you.
song of theirs of all time. There you go. Very good. I love that song. I think you guys will like it. It's a really sassy, great music, everything. I love that song. So then you have a few groups like Mystique, which they had. It was like Scandalous was a big song they played in movies. There's always little one-offs that happened in the 90s and 2000s. They was kind of like, you got a hit here. Maybe you made it here. They didn't really make it. But I want to go to the grandparents of my girl groups, the Spice Girls. I know you guys get pressed all the time about girl groups and all that kind of stuff. But I just want to know what your feelings are about the Spice Girls. I just want to know what your feelings are about them. I love them.
Absolutely love them.
Mike, I
Want a
think Mike
reunion.
was a bigger fan than I was. But I liked them. I enjoyed them. I wasn't a big like girl power, and I didn't see the movie until my sister got the cassette tape. They were cool. I mean, I think there was a part of me, as much as I hate to admit this, as a teenage boy, as comfortable as I was with myself, I was still like, oh no, they're girls. But I did like their stuff, and I was open to liking their stuff. But I think there was a threshold that I allowed myself to go. I think Mike was definitely more comfortable with liking them than I was, and I give a shout out to Mike because that's dope.
Also, my dumbass, when we were in the daycare center, I remember a lot of the girls liked the Spice Girls, and I was like, oh, this is great. I like the Spice Girls. They like the Spice Girls. This is my in.
Right.
That I wasn't thinking now I think about it older, they were probably just like, oh no, we don't need to worry about him.
That's our
we're
friend.
good. Yeah. That's Mike.
That's Mike.
He's just one of the girls. No.
For the girls.
Oh, Nicole,
Yes.
what's up?
No, it's funny because I was an adult when they came out. So I was an adult when they came out. So, and I had kids, so I had daughters, and so they loved them. My gay self loved them. Like, oh my god, I love these chicks. I mean, it was they were like cartoon characters, but also their music was very original, though. I mean, "Wannabe" is a song that sounds like nothing else in the '90s. That song sounds like nothing else in the '90s.
That's why it was huge. That's why it was huge. Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't sound like anything else. It's like it stands on its own. And "Spice of Your Life," people love that song because it's very just catchy and that song is
good
catchy.
songs. They had good songs, and that's the reason why they were so big, and that's the reason why they were universally loved by everybody. I mean, even a guy who was trying to play it cool, was just like, giving you everything, and I had to sing it because it was just dope. They were dope. They really were.
So tell me you guys, why do you think it seems like it's easier for boy bands, in your opinions, to kind of make it? I mean, Spice Girls are like an anomaly. I mean, there's a few others that Danny Kaine for a minute. I'm gonna tell you, there's a few. I can think of a few. I mean, there's a few that actually kind of made it where the Spice Girls have endured. They still have a huge hit. So, Mike Zacchio, tell me what you think. Why?
Because they cater to women. The girls are the ones who are gonna tell their parents, I want to go to the concert. I want this merch. Whatever. Guys, stereotypically, are not going to do that. Like I like Spice Girls, but the furthest I was going to go is like, oh, I want to go see the Spice World movie. I'm not like, Mom, give me like I want the Spice World T-shirt, and I want this merch. I want the backpack. I want the yo-yo, and I want to go see them on tour or whatever. Whereas like that's typically the case for the female Backstreet Boys and Sync fans. Like they were like Shannon. She's like I had like all the merch and whatnot. So yeah. That's my
you're right.
guess on it. Yeah.
No, you're right. My daughters did too. They had all they wanted the backpack, the lunchbox. You're right. That's okay. The merch thing. You're right. That was kind of their big separation. They had good merch.
Because also guys like
the chicks wanted, the girls wanted.
Because guys don't want to sit there and say like oh hey like check out my new Spice Girls T-shirt. Like whereas like girls don't care if it's like hey look at my One Direction T-shirt. Like yeah Harry's hot. Like
true.
It is what it is.
That's true.
But you know what's so funny though, because when it comes to like rock or rap or any other form, guys will wear T-shirts with people's faces on them and stuff. My brother-in-law had this Ice Cube shirt on the other day. He's 50 years old. It's kind of funny how that works, right?
Insecure masculinity. I don't know. They don't want to
idolizing. This is who I want to be. This is the perception I want to give off. Like I want to be like whoever's on my T-shirt. And it's also like toxic masculinity, and growing up in the 90s as well was different. I mean, we're in the 2020s now, but we grew up in the 90s and it was just a different culture back then.
Yeah, God forbid I supported a female artist, without someone thinking that I was gay or something like that.
Yeah, and I had, and Mike, I know the same with you, but I've had guys call me gay my whole life for the simple fact that I liked NSYNC. And back in the day, in the 90s, someone like me who was like 10 years old, like that was like a horrible thing to call somebody. Now I think you can call a kid gay in 2020 and be like, oh, I'm not gay. Like I can brush it off, but like back in the day, like the way we were raised, like that was taught to be probably a biggest insult you can give a straight guy, which is ridiculous. Luckily for me, like I said, I had my brother, and like that helped me a lot. And just being raised in that environment, realizing that this is completely normal and that society's kind of backwards, that helped me. But yeah, I just think that when it comes to like what teenage girls want, the way that society dictates what they want anyway, because they're just throwing this in their face saying, hey, this is what you want. Like, don't you want a boyfriend? Don't you want like a cute Prince Charming type of guy? So that's being thrown in their face all at the same time. And guys, we're not made to, get Spice Girl shirts and talk about how hot girls are or things like that. It's just a different avenue of what we're supposed to like.
And even the Spice Girls, like they catered to the female market. They were like all about girl power and female empowerment. They weren't sitting there saying like, try to get a boyfriend or whatever. It was like, we're singing about friendship and,
that was dope. That was so cool about that. That was really cool about them. I think they were Frozen before Frozen.
You guys bring a really good point. I mean, because you both are very, what's the word I'm going to use? Secure in your masculinity, secure in who you are. Of course, I knew Josh worked with Ross Matthews, our buddy Ross Matthews, and that whole crowd. And Mike, I told you, I praise you for your videos and everything that you do. Why do you think you guys they say, because I remember back in the day, it was very much like, you're a sissy, you're a fag, you're this, all of you like certain music, which is so funny. And when I was a kid, I remember when not Boy George, well, him too, but when George Michael had 2 earrings in his ear, and I remember this is in the 80s, they were like, if you have 2 earrings, that means you're gay. Or if you have the one in the right ear.
In the right ear,
that's fun. I had my ears pierced on the left ear in 2nd grade. I was in the Atlantic City Boardwalk. My dad's crazy. He decided to pierce my ears in 2nd grade. Got the left ear. First day of school, 2nd grade. My friend Saeed, I'll never forget. We're in line waiting to go in the class. And he goes, you got your ears pierced? And I was like, yeah. And he looks at me. This is 2nd grade. And he goes, oh, okay, it's on your left ear. Because it was on your right ear. That mean you're gay. Like that was a thing in 2nd grade. Like it was just.
It was.
Yeah.
James, it took me so long to like come to terms with like just being okay and like in my own skin. That like I got my ear pierced in 2010, 2011. And again, sitting in the same thing, I remember thinking like, which ear is it? Like, I didn't think like, what ear do I want it? And it was just like, oh wait, which one's the gay ear? Which one's, the straight ear? And it's just like, and that was as recent as 10 years ago. So it took time to, just be like, fuck it. This is who I am. And,
I say this all the time, James. We have this conversation. Like my brother was just my cheat code. Like just 1000% in life was just my cheat code. He was older. He was half black and he looked black, gay. So like, and he was if you knew my brother, like he was just ultra comfortable in his skin. Like he did not give a damn what anybody thought about him. He was going to be who he was. So that was the example I had growing up, was that. And it was subconsciously, whatever it was, I was like, oh, well, that's how he is. It's going to be cool to be whoever I am too. And I just never really wavered from that for whatever reason. Like I said, growing up in the 90s, having kids call you gay when you're not gay or straight was like such like a catastrophic thing, which is silly. But like when you're 10, you don't know any better. You can't logically, work this out in your head. But, because of people like my brother and just, it made me comfortable to just be like, yeah, this is who I am. Like, I don't have to prove things to you. And I'm just happy for his existence because I feel like he was my cheat code. And I think a lot of people need cheat codes.
I agree with that. I agree with that. You and I have talked about our brothers. I had an older brother who was gay and the whole thing. And that was it was such interesting to watch. I mean, representation does matter. You see somebody who they are.
Yeah.
That helps you. It does help you. And I always like straight guys should take more from the gay guys and say, just be who you are. Like whatever that is. Like, why do you have to worry about, because you like a boy band? Okay, it's music. Okay.
Exactly.
I mean,
that's all it is.
Why can't you like it? I mean,
right.
Why you gotta pretend you can't like it? So I always thought that was such an interesting thing. You're right. In the 80s, it was kind of cool because everything was mixed up. So we all we could like everything. But again, it was just that which side of the earring. But see, in the 80s, everybody was wearing makeup. Guys were wearing guy liner. I mean, it was all a little different. But you're right. The 90s changed that. The 90s got really, after gangster rap came out and grunge and all that, it changed. You're right. It totally changed. It became feminine and masculine. It was totally.
We grew up in New York too. Like New York was like a hotspot of like hip hop and rap, and that's another thing too. Our demographics, it was different as well. So, yeah.
Let me ask you about this because you are from New York. What was your earliest thought? This is a little side detour, but this is my show. I can do whatever I want. What was your earliest memories of? I said, Josh, Rachel, I love how you talk about your brother, Josh. Yeah. It's hard. It's really weird when you lose a brother, and Josh and I have talked about this. It's the strangest thing. It's strange.
Yeah.
You don't talk about losing siblings. You don't really talk about. It's very. I miss my brother every single day. Also, it's very strange. It's very strange. But what was your earliest memories of hip hop? Because you're from the hotbed. I mean, it started in New York, folks. I didn't start in LA. It started in New York. So what was your earliest memories of hip hop?
Well, speaking of my older brother, he liked hip hop. It's funny because I was watching the Britney Spears documentary the other day, and they showed the charts, and it said "Baby One More Time" was #1, and "The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill" was #2. And in my head, I laughed because I was like, I had the Britney Spears album, my brother had the Lauryn Hill album.
Oh, funny!
Should have been reversed.
Totally should have known.
Yeah, but like being in the Bronx, that was probably the first. That and Motown, because my parents listened to Motown, were the first genres I was pretty much introduced to. So like Naughty by Nature, like all that type of stuff, Run DMC, like that. I was introduced to that at an early age. So I mean, as far as I can go back to what I remember musically, hip hop was always there for me. It wasn't like a new thing ever for me.
Yeah, I remember the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill being like a big thing at the daycare center. I think Kid Sheldon like brought it in one day.
Sheldon, God, I forgot about him.
Yeah, throwback names. But like, when the Fugees and everything, like, like the one time that like just,
the Fugees,
little white old me is just like one time, two times. Like, and my uncle also, like he loved Biggie and whatnot. So like he would play, like his Biggie hits, whatever, around us when he was babysitting us at, 7, 8 years old or whatever. So got a little bit of an education in that. My uncles are playing Motown. My dad's playing disco. I'm just, a melting pot of music.
I love that. No, same here. No, so for me, my quick little story is that I went to New York for the first time in the mid 80s. My first time going to New York, and I got on TWA, and that was the airline of choice going to New York. And I flew TWA.
I remember TWA.
Yes, that was the airline from LA to New York. It was always TWA.
Yeah.
And I flew that. My mother sent me back there. It was my second time on a plane by myself. I've flown to Hawaii on my own, but at the same time on myself. And I was like 12 or 13 at the time. And I remember we got there, and I remember seeing on TV breakdancers. So they weren't here in LA yet. So they hadn't got here yet. We were trying to pop and lock back then. We were all trying to do this little crap. But we hadn't got to the breakdancing part yet. And I remember being on West 57th Street with my grandpa Bob, may he rest in peace. And he was like, yeah, these kids are gonna break their necks and blah, blah, blah. And I remember hearing, back then it was just rap, hearing Run DMC, hearing, African Bambaataa, and all these groups. And then with the cardboard boxes and seeing it in my face, seeing it right in front of me, them breakdancing. And hearing this music with the beatbox, like right there's a beatbox. Like it was so foreign to us in LA at the time. And I was like, oh my God. I remember calling my mother, oh my God, I saw these guys. I remember that memory so ingrained in my brain, and because I knew that New York was the place. I mean, we in California, that's what we knew. And then shortly thereafter, we had the iced teas, and all that. They started to come out here, but New York was always the place. That was the place for it. We just knew it was almost like sacred ground to hear it. And I remember seeing it. That's my earliest memories, being on West 57th Street and seeing the guys do all their stuff set to a boombox. I thought that was such a iconic image for me of that time period. I just loved it. I loved it. So I just love hip hop. I love hip hop.
You still get that, by the way. You still have that in the subways here.
Do you really?
Yeah, not as much anymore, but yeah, when I used to work in downtown Manhattan, every once in a while I'd see it. Yeah.
Yes, I haven't been in New York the pandemic was last year, so I've been in New York in 2 years. I guess at this point now, I used to go every year all the time. But after my grandmother died, I haven't been since. And then the pandemic hit, and I haven't been. I missed New York's my magic city. I miss going to New York.
I love New York.
I love riding the subways. I miss my Flicker Street pizza. I miss all my stuff. I miss Big Gay ice cream. I miss Big Gay ice cream. I miss all that stuff. I do. I miss all that. Now, okay, so in your stuff with this boy band manifesto, Constitution. Are you going? I mentioned this to Mike, so I got to ask you, Josh. Are you going all the way back to the Beatles?
I mean, our podcast doesn't.
Okay, so tell me what is your Constitution starting from? 87 on? I mean,
I guess. I mean, we started my birth year, right? Mark, it was my birth year, 87. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's our Constitution of what consists of a boy band. But I mean, if we're going to talk Beatles and Jackson 5 and the Monkees, obviously they're boy bands. I think they're qualified to be boy bands. But I think the debate really comes in the 90s, like when you have groups like Boyz II Men and Jodeci and things of that nature. So it's just to kind of I mean, because like I said, Mike and I, like, we do countdowns all the time. We do listicles and we just have discussions and we never, like, if you pay attention to our podcast, you can tell that we never really know how to approach the conversation when it comes to these guys. Because there's a genre component, there's a racial component too. Let's just be honest. There's just a lot of different things that go along with it. And we just kind of, I think Mike and I are just kind of sick of tiptoeing around it. So I think
we just draft up a Constitution. It's like, good. We're going to refer to this. This is what it is. Done,
period. But I think that it will cover everybody from back in the day, like the Jackson 5 and the Monkees.
So in the 90s, that's when the explosion of groups came out. I mean, both male and female. So it's be interesting to see what you guys put on there, because there are groups like Today, and R. Kelly was in a group at one point with public announcements. I mean, there's all these groups that came out, like with the TLCs and Salt and Pepper and all that. They all kind of became these. There's a lot of groups, SWV. There's all these groups that came out that you're like, so it's All for One or Color Me Bad boy bands, or are they R&B groups because they're kind of adult? I mean, there's a lot of groups that came out then, a lot.
And also, I feel like I want to be as lean as possible because I want to talk about Boyz II Men on our podcast. Like, I want to have these conversations.
And also, I also think we take some creative liberties because, like, we are very well aware that boy bands is a very niche topic that, like, we can't just talk about Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, NKOTB, LFO, 90 Degree. Like, that's not just going to be the entire show. So yeah, like, we'll stretch it out, whatever. And, whether you consider the Jonas Brothers a boy band or not, because they play instruments, or Hanson or whatever, like, for the purposes of the podcast, like, yeah. But I definitely think when we were doing that interview with My So-Called Whatever, we were like, we got to do, like, we just got to make a Constitution and just make, like, rules of what qualifies, so that if anybody brings up a group again, or when we do, our next greatest blank of all time for boy bands, like, we know what songs qualify and which ones don't.
Right.
Hanson. How about them? Oh, I got that.
They have a good Christmas album. You should check it out. That was one of our like later episodes. Like, it's surprisingly good. Yeah.
I mean, they were a talented trio of boys. I mean, they were. The MMMBop song, of course, was this huge, thing, a huge cultural. I remember how big that was when that came out. But they really do consider they put out albums after that. They were doing some good stuff. They just didn't have the hits,
right?
Like everything else. But it'll be interesting to see who you put on there, because, like I said, there's a lot of groups, a lot of forgotten groups, a lot of groups that came on, had a few hits here and there.
Yeah.
But they were boy bands. Like I said, the Color Me Bads and All for Ones, and
How many
those
members
ladies,
are in a
like-
boy band? Like, can we put
That-
3 or 4 people? Does it have to be 5? Like, there's a lot of different things we have to take into consideration.
Are you like what that far? You go. I mean, how many members of the boy
Well,
band?
we
Really?
were on
That's
my
interesting.
so-called whatever, and they were saying that it has to be 5, right? Didn't they, Mike? If I remember.
Oh,
correctly?
I think it could be 3 because like
So do
LFO is a boy band. Like
I agree.
Yeah,
like
they were.
and they're, I'm like, you can't do 2, you're a duo, and you can't obviously have 1, otherwise you're a solo artist. But like, yeah, I think you need to have at least 3,
Right.
and then I think you should be fine. I know the stereotypical, like, you know, the prototype of it is 5. Like that's, you know, the one that's kind of built for success. And NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, and KOTB, One Direction, like 5 is the magic number together. But
No
yeah, I think you can get away with 4. And 3, it's
I say 4. 4 is fine. I think 4 is fine. If you,
Yeah.
if you, yeah, 4 is. I mean, 4 different distinct personalities. I mean, even the sponsors went down to 4 at one point and still were successful. I mean, I
yeah.
think 4 is okay. But you're right. People will see.
I really want people to pitch whatever groups that they think should be considered for 1, and 2, like throw out whatever rules. Like, what do you think constitutes a boy band? And literally just flood our DMs. Like you can pitch 12 different things from one person, whatever, and then Josh and I will just like get together and be like, okay, this person says there needs to be at least 3 people. Yeah, that works. You know, oh, it needs to be this. Okay, no, that doesn't really qualify, and we'll just go from there.
I think it's going to be
Okay.
more of like if you fit like 8 of the 10 criteria, you can't
Yes.
fit them all. It's going to be something.
Of course,
like that.
yeah, it's not just going to be
Okay, I'm looking on the dictionary, see if I can find what they consider a boy band.
Oh,
I do this sometimes to see what they say. Oops. Oh, here we
It's
go.
amazing how we're 2 seasons in, we never even thought to just Google. a
why
boy
don't we
band.
just look it up? That's funny. We never did.
They
that.
say a boy band is loosely defined as a vocal group consisting of young male singers, usually in their teenage years or their 20s at the time of formation, singing love songs marketed towards young women.
So, by that definition,
They said,
Boys to Men is a boy band.
you're right. They said Jackson 5, the Osmonds.
Yeah.
They mentioned Take That, Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, Boyzone, Westlife, and new bands later like Big Time Rush, One Direction, and of course the K-pop stuff.
Oh, we need to like really go in on Big Time Rush. Like,
Right, but
we need to do an episode on them just because like so many people are like, Big Time Rush is phenomenal. I feel like we can really pull in a nice TikTok audience. With that.
they list. Okay, so they said the top 6 boy bands of all time in terms of sales, and they have the
Jackson
number
5.
of members.
Backstreet Boys.
Backstreet Boys at first, which had 5, then 4 because Kevin left for a
Mhm.
while. Then he came back to 5. The Osmonds had 5. Jackson 5 had 5, then 6, then 4. New Kids on the Block, 5, 4, 5. I forgot about them. SATURD. Bay City Rollers had 5. They're from the 80s. I forgot they're a boy band. One Direction, 5, then 4. NSYNC, 5. They list Boys to Men, 5, 4, 3. Take That, 5, 4, 5, 3. And the last one is Westlife, 5 and 4. Those are most in the whole world. Those are about basically rollers.
And that's what like what the fact that Boys to Men, so like Boys to Men is ranked on that, and that's what was throwing me off because I did a lot of like the compiling for like the songs of what's going to qualify for the bracket, and to see like Billboard and Rolling Stones put Motown Philly as a boy band song, which was not their most popular. It wasn't in their top 5 most popular songs.
Not at all, no.
So I'm like, okay, well, if Motown Philly's on here, then End of the Road. I want I'll Make Love to You. Like all these songs got to be like way high up there, and they're not included at all. So I'm like, do they just consider that to be a boy band song and nothing else? And if so, like, then how do you distinguish between because you can't really say like, oh, they came out with a boy band song, but they're not a boy band group. Like I feel like you're either a boy band group and you include all their songs, or they're not and you don't include anything. But
this is harder than I thought.
Yeah, this was our conundrum. That's why because Boys to Men, are we going to put these songs like in the top 3 seeds where they probably belong if we're going to include them? Do we not include them at all and possibly face a whole lot of hate, or do we just try to meet in the middle and be like, okay, fine, we'll put them in, but just 8 to 10 seeds. Like just stick them in the middle of the bracket. So it was not an easy decision.
Maybe have an asterisk after them. Just like they're just because
that feels wrong.
I hate asterisks.
I know, me too.
Yeah.
That's
why to me, I'm like, if we come up with a constitution, at least we can say, like, listen, these are our rules. We really thought long and hard about this. We asked for your input. We asked for input of music experts and boy band aficionados, and like, this is what we are going to go by. There's going to be no asterisks. We're just going to stick to our guns with this, and that's what it is going forward. Nothing's going to be perfect, but this is the science that we're going to use for going forward.
So I think Boys to Men is going to be included.
I think so.
I think they will be too.
I think that's it, kid. I think it's going to be in there. But you guys, thanks for doing this. This is so much fun. I love this. This is so crazy. I'm like, you learn some stuff from me. I learned some stuff from you. I love that. That's the connections of Extra Connections. I appreciate that.
We got like 4 episode ideas. I love it.
Yep. See, I love it. I love it. I do. I'm so glad I could help. So, Josh, tell me what you're doing all kinds of stuff. Tell me what you're doing.
I'm doing a lot of stuff. So we have the Boy Band podcast. Shout out to Mike Zacchio, who is my co-host. We do the damn thing. We just finished up season 2. You can follow us at New Pod on the Block on Instagram. I'm Josh Rodriguez at Josh_Rodriguez_. If you're a sports fan, I'm a huge sports fan. I have my own NBA podcast. It's called The Dime with Josh Rodriguez at The Dime NBA. If you like to talk politics, I do too. Me and my friend Manny Brown, we have a podcast called Any Given Sunday. That's at AGS Pod. I am also a music producer and an internet TV host, even though I don't have a gig right now for the first time in a long time because I've been just focused on production and podcasting. But yeah, hopefully just catch me around. I'll show up somewhere.
You are James Lott Jr.
You are my older brother somehow. Like, we're related. We're cousins. I don't know what the hell, but we're something.
Kindred spirits.
Yeah, just give me like your parents' birthday and stuff like that. I'll go on Ancestry right now, and I'll link our tree somehow. I guarantee it. There's just no way we're not related.
We're 48th cousins.
Yeah.
48th. Once you move, like that. Twice you moved. No, you are my hermano. So you know you know that. I love you. So Mike Zacchio, my straight boyfriend. What are you doing these days?
I am actually in grad school to become a teacher. So I'm studying secondary education, trying to become a social studies teacher. Inspired a lot by everything that's been going on the last 5 years and really during this pandemic and dealing with a lot of uneducated and more so uninformed people. I'm like, okay, I want to try and mold young minds and just teach them to learn to have, constructive conversations with their adults. I don't know if they're parents or whatever. So yeah, that's my primary focus. My fiance and I just moved into our apartment in New Jersey, so we're acclimating to life with furniture and cohabitating full time, and bartending here and there just to pay the bills until get a full time job. But right now, I'm glad to be in school and having that be my full time focus, because that's what I want. I wanted to do it during this quarantine because I'm like, COVID's not going away for at least until the end of the summer. If I could try to bang out a master's degree in that time, or at least close to it, why not use the time wisely? So, and then I'm on TikTok watching RuPaul's Drag Races and acting a fool.
I love them so much. Oh my God, I love them so much. Please continue doing them. Please don't stop. Oh my God,
they give me life. I look forward to every Friday night now, not because it's Friday night, but because it's RuPaul's Drag Race night.
Yes.
And Thursdays we have RuPaul's UK. So
yes, you do. I love it. And teachers do God's work. So this will be good. I think that's a great thing they do. They're very important for our society.
I appreciate you.
Very important. And I'm James Lott Jr. I do 8,000 things. Just follow me at James Lott Jr. everywhere James Lott Jr. is sold. Just follow me there. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Google. I'm on Apple. I'm everywhere. Everywhere. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Follow me there, like what I'm doing, see what I'm doing. Maybe you find something you like. Share this interview with people who are, it's a boy bands and girl bands. And let's see what they're saying. Let's see what they're saying. The folks in the chat room, congratulations to Mike, they're saying to you guys in the chat room. Thanks for watching us today on this little Monday afternoon that's happening here today. I'm so happy you guys come and join us. And thanks for the likes on my page. Everyone, please be safe, stay sane, and listen to a boy band.